choose your profession again, would you choose the one that you did? Or if you had the choice again, would you choose to be something different?
So me?
Yeah.
I went off to university to be a marine biologist. I gave up after a week and changed to history, and I have never regretted it for 1 second.
Wow. So
No, I don't want to be. I was scared of sharks. I hadn't realised too much of it. So, no, I'm happy where I am. And this graph, the important thing about this is the top line there is the market, the bottom line there is housing benefit. There's a big gap between those two. The golden line running through the middle is our rents. So it's all about trying to stabilise an affordable place to live, but also to work. And these are residential rents, but capped rents. You can see how small that area is. It's a very fine-grained neighbourhood. These buildings are close to each other. They are literally spitting distance from each other. And what we're trying to do is see if you can take the difficult and derelict buildings in a small area and solve them with this broad concept of the commons, which is not just about the physical resources, it's about the people, the commoners, people stepping forward to be part of it. And it's about the action, the commoning, the thing that they do together, which could be anything from socialising together to actually making something together. Which has to do with entirely dysfunctional funding systems, which need to change. We cannot do transformation at neighbourhood level with the kind of funding approaches we have at the moment.
So for us, it wasn't about the kind of helicoptering in of the architect and the design group to kind of solve the problem. It was about us being integrated into something existing, which was really refreshing for us, because in similar projects that don't have the strong commons, as architects, it's a huge amount of pressure. But you pitch for a project, community-driven project, and then it's handed over to you, and the onus is on you to kind of, in a couple of engagement sessions that you signed your life away, to suddenly understand decades of social complexities in a neighbourhood, and it can work, but it frequently doesn't. And so it was really different here, and that was a massive positive. Loads of local labour was employed, and that was a big thing in this. So although it was a London-based contractor, they were basically strong-armed into making sure that they were employing local labour, which was vital. In fact, the glazer that did a lot of the manufactured and lovingly reinstalled all of this glazing remembers when he was 13 or 14 breaking into it, smashing all the windows in the first place, but then that kind of full circle.
A community land trust is really in the name, so community involves the community, and we could talk for hours, I guess, of what the definition of the community is, but let's not go there tonight.
Maybe later.
Yeah, maybe later, yeah. Land, it involves land, but it could be land for any purpose. It could be for an orchard, for a pub, for housing. We're doing it primarily for housing, and with other ancillary uses as well. And then it's a trust. It's about keeping the land in trust in perpetuity forever, so that community benefit is there forever. But the community chooses the architect, which I think is pretty unusual as well. So that was effectively, you come along, there's a beauty parade, and you've got to do your little dance or whatever,
Describe it like that, but yeah.
That's a bit rude. But you know what I mean, you've got to effectively convince people that you are the right person for the job. And then the community is involved in developing up the design of a series of design charrettes and ongoing work, and Melissa will talk about that.
I think one of the key things that maybe people don't know about the Community Land Trust before I start is that the homes are sold according to local... Did you say this?
I didn't say this, I wasn't given time.
According to local earnings. So they're sold at approximately 65% of the equivalent home. So I just think that really changes the conversation that we have with local people, and I think it just should be acknowledged what an extraordinary achievement on a difficult site that was. Look to, people talk about social value, but I'm always thinking like, who can we meet on the way and identify what they might benefit from this process, rather than an apprenticeship from something XYZ, So this is Janet's son in the middle with the headphones on, and he mentioned earlier on that he wanted to do some training for the BBC, but he didn't have any media experience. So we said, let's do some filming, and then on the right, she's a filmmaker from the estate. So they made a film together about the project. He's now still working at the BBC. So I mean, I'm really, proud that we picked up on some opportunities, and you can only do that if you really get to know people.
The downside of this is that what you've destroyed is a kind of huge amount of material culture, huge amount of community infrastructure, and so over the space of sort of 40 years, you have kind of this incredibly dense, quite amazing, quite beautiful Victorian streetscape, kind of replaced this kind of strange suburban sprawl. And then these two maps, so that's the street area of the 1950s, and that's in 2016. So the reason why it's called Granby 4 Streets is because it's the last kind of 4 remaining streets of this kind of larger Victorian area. Didn't work, unsurprisingly. The result was obviously it didn't solve any social problems. The social problems were much more ingrained than housing value. What it did do, obviously, is destroy the kind of community infrastructure that were there. So actually, social problems became much more acute. Through actually doing another project in Toxteth, looking at kind of empty spaces, which in Toxteth have, because a lot of them are left over from being essentially arson attacks or from the riots, have this kind of quite strange relationship where they're kind of beautiful, but also they're kind of scars.